Call this meeting to order. The regular board meeting of the Vallecitos Water District, Wednesday, February 20th. Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance be done by our finance manager. What?
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Director Ellithar?
Here.
Director Evans? Here. Director Hernandez?
Here.
Director Sinella?
Here.
Director Martin?
Present.
Thank you.
Need a motion to adopt the agenda for our regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Public comment. I don't have anything up here from anyone who wants to speak, so we don't have to do that. Okay, we're going to start right off with the presentation, but I don't see Andy here, so he might be waylaid.
He might be in traffic.
Okay. Probably in traffic. So we're going to move to a presentation to Alicia Yearman.
Thank you, President Martin. I am proud to announce that the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services has certified Alicia Yearman as meeting the requirements of Emergency Operations Center Position Level 3 as a Public Information Officer. For this position, Alicia took 22 courses over a 5-year period, including background training, and you also have to actually serve in an EOC command center. You need hands-on trial by fire to achieve this status, and Alicia achieved that during the Cocos Fire, partnering up with the city of San Marcos and serving in their emergency operations center back in 2014. Alicia was able to attend all of these classes for free. They were grant funded through California Specialized Training Institute, the San Diego Urban Security Initiative, and of course FEMA. And President Martin has her certificate, and I'd like to get a picture of Alicia getting this certificate. And Alicia, I'm so proud of you. There's just no words to express it.
Now, you're the only EOC Type 3 person we have with a credential, is that correct?
That I'm aware of.
We'll not need a few more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that.
That's great.
Thank you.
We have the entire board.
Good job, very good job.
Congratulations, Lisa.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What some people may not know, she's also our video expert.
Yeah.
She's put together a lot of little tidbits, and of which I thought we were going to see a couple of them tonight. Apparently, they're too lengthy to show. Is there a problem? We'd like to see some of the things that everyone else gets to see.
Yeah, so we're gonna be doing that at subsequent board meetings. The agenda had already been prepared for tonight by the time you and I had talked about that, adding that to the agenda. So we'll be adding on
Couldn't
future
show a
agendas.
snippet because it wasn't on the agenda?
Well, it's better form to have it listed under the presentation. So starting next meeting, they will be there.
I would just like to say congratulations, but a special shout out
Lisa.
for a woman. It's a special shout out. I appreciate all the men who do all these things, but it's really nice to see a woman spend 22 courses in 5 years to attain this level. I truly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. As I said earlier, the entire board appreciates what you do. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Andy, we're just gonna put on hold for now, that presentation. When he shows up, we'll do it then.
Correct.
Consent calendar.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second that, although I do have a correction.
Okay, so except for the correction, which you can make after we vote on it, I assume, yes? We can vote on the consent calendar. So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and that's unanimous, and your
The
exception.
correction is to modify item 1.1B. It's on page 10 in the last paragraph of my San Diego County Water Authority report. The judge's last name is Wiss, W-I-S-S. I'm sure it wasn't enunciated well enough for you to hear it, but I wanted to correct that. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're gonna move to action items. Looks like we're going to Jason for item 2.1.
Actually, my boss.
Oh, actually, we're going to Jason's boss for item 2.1.
I'll just be,
Just James is probably going to work. So, thank you, President Martin, members of the board. This item is for the Meadowlark Biological Selector Improvement Project. And I got a quick presentation that I want to show you, kind of explaining what this is. So, essentially, here's the treatment process. So you start off with raw sewer coming into the plant. It goes into the headworks and then the primary sedimentation basins, which is what we call primary treatment. On the secondary treatment, so that's mechanical treatment. You're mechanically kind of separating the sewer from the water. The secondary treatment's really biological at our plant, so that's the roughening filters. And for the board members who've been at the plant, you may recall they're the large cylindrical concrete tanks that are kind of pushed up against the hill. The aeration basins, which are covered, and that's what this project really is focusing on. And then the secondary clarifiers, which are those big open kind of pools that basically slow down the water and separate. And that's a biological process, and that's a secondary treatment. And the primary and secondary treatment is what is required to treat sewer to the point where you could actually pump it out all the way to the ocean outfall at Encina. So that bypasses Encina, goes right to the ocean outfall. Tertiary treatment is what you use to make recycled water, and
So quick question then,
Yes.
James, is that once you go past the secondary and you go into the chemical injection, that's all done for a recycled water program, which third parties are paying for,
Yes.
100%.
Our operational costs are being recouped 100%.
Okay,
So.
very good.
So with that, the tertiary side, you got chemical injection, you got the filters, which are those sand and material filters. It's a little bit more than sand in there, but essentially it's primary sand filter. Thank you, anthracite. And then you have additional chemical, which is mainly chlorine. And then you got the chlorine contact chamber, and of course the recycled water pumps, which pumps it out to the recycled water system, which for us is basically a pipeline to Mar Reservoir. So with that, we're really going to focus on the secondary treatment, where this work takes place. And within the secondary treatment, it's really the aeration tanks. So with this is basically two components. Phase one of the designs for both, but implementation is in two phases. Phase one is for ceramic diffusers to replace the existing panels. The existing panels originally were put in basically in 2007 when we upgraded the plant. They failed. They were replaced with the same type of panel in 2011. They failed again. So we hired Trussell Engineering to look at this and say, we're not going to keep on putting in the same type of panels that fail over and over again. And their recommendation was to go with ceramic diffusers. And I have a picture of what this looks like a little later in the presentation.
James, can you explain what the diffusers do?
Absolutely. So the diffusers basically take blown ox air, and they make it into fine bubbles to basically get oxygen into the sewer, into the water. So in this process, what you're doing is you're basically introducing sludge or bugs, basically biological material. You have the sewer, which has food. The bugs eat the food, and what the bugs really need is they need food and they need air to cultivate and grow. So that's the return activated sludge that goes in there. It mixes with the air. It provides a perfect environment for bacteria to cultivate and multiply. The bacteria consume basically the fecal matter in the sewer, essentially, taking the solids out of the sewer, and then, for lack of a better term, when we have tours, we'll say the bacteria now get, fat and happy and heavy, and they kind of settle down in the primary sediment or secondary sedimentation tanks, and then we waste them in our solids pump all the way to Messina, and that's part of our solids treatment. So essentially what you're doing is you're separating the solids from the water in sewer treatment, and this is an essential part of it. And what we have is we have failing panels in the secondary treatment, so we need to replace them. But instead of just going ahead and replacing them in kind with the same type that failed before, we went ahead and hired Trustwell Engineering, which are experts in the field, to say what is the right way to go. And these ceramic diffusers, so the old ones is kind of a flat membrane that puts out a lot of air. These ceramic diffusers, I'll have a picture of it, it's round and they're made out of ceramic. And they're basically fairly bulletproof from an operational standpoint. They last a long time. They've been in the industry for a long time. They have a really good record. The panels that were picked originally were newer. They provide more air per square inch. However, they have a critical failure, and they failed twice on us now. And the manufacturer has come up with a new design that's supposed to take care of it. But you know what? It fooled me once, fooled me twice. We're not going to do this again. And these aren't cheap panels. So we're going to go with a tried and true design. Also, when we looked at this, we saw basically with new technology, an opportunity to look at what we call a new anaerobic selector zone. So essentially, what that is putting a baffle wall into the aeration panel here and stacking these diffusers closer to make sure we get enough air. And what that provides is an area where there's bugs, there's very little oxygen, and you could actually have basically a selected zone so you can remove nutrients from the water biologically. So at the end of the day, you're removing a lot more phosphorus. You're moving almost 85% of the phosphorus out of the sewer flow, which helps the secondary treatment process. But really, it also helps the recycled water process, because at Mar Reservoir, we have algae blooms. And those algae blooms are primarily fed by phosphorus in the water. And what happens is we have bugs that like to eat the algae, which then clogs the filters and creates a lot of problems and creates a lot of additional chemical use and also labor and maintenance at Mar. We're not, I just want to be clear with the board, we're not moving forward with that secondary process because we need to get our partners on board to pay for it, because they are the primary beneficiaries of us removing phosphorus out of the recycled water. However, the panels are failing as far as the secondary process, which is what Vallecitos is responsible for to discharge into the ocean. So we have to replace those panels. So, yes.
A quick question. The membranes that have failed,
Yes.
we're not the only people that buy these things. Why did they fail, and are they failing everyone? Or is it our system? Or why did they fail?
So they're used in Europe, and they have some good records in Europe, and there's a European design, I believe it's German design, and their framing is made out of like a stainless steel. The company that partnered with them used the same membranes, but made a plastic framing, and what would happen is there's a seam on it, and the framing would split open, and instead of air going through the frame into the membranes, air would just bubble up as the membranes were no longer operational. So they stopped making them completely.
Are we the only one that uses this process in San Diego County?
The process is the same process, but this product, there's only 2 or 3 agencies in San Diego County that use it. They're used more on the East Coast, and there's not a lot, because most people stick with the ceramic diffusers, or a lot of people stick with the ceramic diffusers, and they have a long tried history. The reason why this was originally picked was because it provides more air per square inch, so you have to buy less diffusers. So in essence, over time, if they were to last as long as ceramic diffusers, they would save money. Ceramic diffusers will essentially last longer, but it takes a little bit of maintenance. You have to basically chemically treat them every now and then. However, if they're not failing, they're not causing overtime and other basically issues with labor, having to deal with sewer flow issues. As sewer concentrations are getting stronger, if you don't have enough air, it upsets the plant, which causes us to use more chemicals just for our portion of the treatment, which is the secondary. I'm not even considering the recycled water. So with that, here's a couple pictures, and what we're talking about is basically a curtain, a baffled curtain which slows the flow down, allows the bacteria to use all the oxygen up, so it becomes anaerobic, so no oxygen in the system, which basically, when it's timed correctly, and I have to trust Trussell Engineering because they're the experts on this, you could actually, based on how much the tension time, how long it takes to get through, it removes certain type of material, and this time we're targeting phosphorus because that's our main culprit. Again, this is a phase 2 project, not intended to be implemented until we have our recycled water customers on board. The diffusers, here's the pictures of the diffusers. So these are the ceramic diffusers that we're going to replace. So the other ones are big panels, basically rectangular shape, and these are smaller circular diffusers. Obviously, the piping, the controls, the amount of, we could reuse our existing air blowers that blow air into them, but we have to redo the controls. So most of the costs are in material and new piping and new controls to make sure our existing equipment, because the blower itself that blows air into this is not an inexpensive item. So this is a picture of the diffusers, and essentially some of the benefits, and some of these are recycled water benefits, some of these are benefits for our ratepayers also, is reduced maintenance and future replacement costs. We've had to replace these panels, this will be the second time around. These diffusers have much longer lifespan. Improve secondary effluent quality. When the plant gets upset, we have to spend labor hours to maintain it, to monitor it, to do laboratory tests. Basically, the big savings is now we have a more robust system that can handle different upsets at the plant, because sewers don't always come in exactly with the same chemical compositions. Reduce the amount of chemicals, both need for it in the secondary side in case the plant's upset, and of course on the recycled side in the future. Obviously, the phosphorus removal is more of a phase 2 because it helps the recycled water. And then the monitoring. So with this opportunity, when we did the plant upgrade, a lot of these different monitors weren't available. Now we have an opportunity to put these new monitors in, which will reduce staff costs taking samples and laboratory costs. The project's not driven by a traditional return on investment. We have to replace these panels no matter what. So we're taking the opportunity to find the most efficient way and try and save a little bit more, not on direct chemical costs, but more on freeing up labor. What we're finding out, and I'm sure they're finding out the same thing as at Encina, is the sewer concentrations are higher now than even when we first designed the plant. And the plant needs to be robust enough to handle these upsets. Currently, we handle it by our staff time, dealing with it, making tests, manning the site, and chemicals. This will help ensure to help reduce mainly the staff time and some chemical costs over the future. And last but not least, and kind of speaking to that point, it provides that operational flexibility. Now we'll have a more robust system, and your air system is the heart and soul of the treatment plant. Without it, you cannot effectively treat the sewers at the proper levels. So with that, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer. And if the board, at the board's discretion, staff recommends award of design services for Trussell Engineering in the amount of $110,537.
Director Evans?
Thank you. I'm just curious, what you had pictures, but what size are those discs?
Do you recall the size, Jason, by any chance?
I think they're about 8 or 10 inches in diameter, and that's why you see so many, stacked in a row.
So how many discs are actually in there now, will be in there?
I don't know the exact amount. One of the things that Trussell is tasked to do is to design the layout of where the discs are, how much airflow needs to go to each disc, and how to control it. So that's going to be worked out through the design.
So they could be closer together than this particular picture shows us maybe, or?
My understanding is, depends on where they are in the treatment, there's going to be closer space and further space ones. But yeah, most likely they're going to be closer together.
And how many panels of the stuff that failed do we have?
Ed, you may know.
I'm just trying to guess a picture of how big this replacement is.
We originally thought aeration basin 1 had blown panels, but it was actually 2 and 3, so we wound up with more than we thought that are blown out. So we're looking at, we were thinking originally 12 were blown, and we're probably more around 16 for those panels.
And the panels are actually fairly large, if I
They're big.
remember right.
Yeah.
They're 3 by 5 or
I think
smaller?
they're 4 by 6.
4 by 6.
Yeah.
So, and the discs are quite small, so it's a complete different plumbing setup, but what Trussell Engineering did is to make sure the most expensive component, which is the air handler that actually blows air into the system, is adequate. We have to put different controls and valving on it, but it's adequate to handle it, because that's a fairly new piece of equipment that the district invested in, and we still haven't got the useful life out of it.
Well, thank you for the explanation. I think it's a great idea. I'd move for approval.
Yeah, let me just add, I don't have it in front of me, but Trustles did do a planning study, which is what the design is going to be built off of. And they did lay out how many diffusers were going to be there, and because they ran theoretical models on all this, and we used that number to figure out what the cost was going to be. So we do have an idea of how many, I just don't have it in front of me, but that was all kind of planned out.
And
Thank
I
you.
have a question, is, obviously the old system isn't working efficiently now, and you can't replace it because they don't make the parts anymore. So we have to change systems. And you've chosen this system, or Trussell's chosen this system to say it's the best system for us?
Yeah, so Trussell went ahead in that planning study, excuse me, and we hired them specifically to say which is the right system to go to.
Okay.
And they came up with this system. They actually have a replacement system. It's the German system with the stainless steel rails on the side that replace it. It's significantly more expensive, and it also would require a full remodel because they're different sizes. They're smaller, and they won't fit. So the amount of work would be even more expensive. And Trussell's point was, you're going based on a theoretical promise, and here's a system that's used all over the United States successfully. It's been in plants for decades.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, the air handler, the air going into that handler, is it filtered?
It's just outside air. There's yes, there's a filter, but it's not pure oxygen or anything like that. It's taking air from the atmosphere, going through a filter to make sure there's no particles in it, and then being blown in there at a very high
Yeah, I
rate.
wonder if that made a difference. I had my car serviced, and I had to get a cabin filter for $90, and I went, it's air. Oh no, we got to clean the air. So it's like, thanks, Director Elfire.
Yeah, normally you have a breakdown of the project budget. Could you just kind of go through each of the items? How much did you budget for planning and design, and how much is budgeted for construction?
Yeah, so Jason, you might have this particulars on that, but
Yeah, I can tell you we've spent about 49,000 and change already just on the planning side, and that was mainly for Trussell's. Under $1,000 in staff time was spent in planning. So moving to design, we're looking at that 110,000 that we're looking for on the PO for the approval, and then of course staff time just to review and comment. Then moving into construction, we're budgeting about 1.3 million. That's for both phases. That's the replacement of the panels, and if we can get the partners, like the district engineer said, to move forward with the zone, that would be that 1.3 million. If we just go with the panels, somewhere in the order of 500 to 600,000.
yeah, and then at that point, if the recycled water customers wanted to go in with the biological selector, which is the big advantage for them, it would be additional costs because there'd be some more demo work and there'd be additional work that needs to be done. So we're going to give them an opportunity to come on board now if they're uninterested. Staff plans on coming back to the board with just that phase 1 project.
Thank you.
Another question, only because we're on the subject, Ed, is the same staff at Meadowlark the same staff that maintains McMar, or is that different?
Same stuff.
Okay, so the Meadowlark staff of 5 takes care of that and McMar.
Yep.
Awesome. And phase 1 doesn't depend on phase 2. If we go with phase 1 and the people we're selling to say, no, we don't want to pay any more for what you got, we don't need to have that second phase for any reason.
Absolutely. So the staff's plan is to bring forward just phase 1 unless we have commitments from Carlsbad and Livenhain that they're willing to reimburse us for doing the whole thing. So because we need to replace those panels that are broken for our secondary within the Vallecitos' obligations to treat sewer, but we do not need to add the biological selector, which really is a benefit. It has some benefits on the secondary side, but majority of the benefits are on the recycled water side.
So we could have an ROI on the secondary side, but not on the second phase, but on the first phase. First phase is something we have to do.
Well, and really, the ROI would be kind of a non-issue on if the partners are agreeing to pay for it, they're paying for it. So there's really no return on investment. It's 100% back within the agreed phase, whether it's a 2 or 3 year period.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, Director Sinella.
The two other systems that failed, how long did they last us?
So the original, and it's the same system, so the original panels, which the membrane panels that were the 4x6 or the big panels, they failed shortly. They were put in 2007, and several of them had to be replaced by 2011. I don't recall how many. And district staff just did that as part of their normal route maintenance. They take a panel down, realize they were failed, order new panels, and place them back in. This time around, however, when we were looking at another set of failures, we realized, doing some more research, that the product was not only considered failure by Vallecitos Water District, but the manufacturer was taking them off the shelf. So they're not making them anymore because they know that these are failing. So I imagine, they won't share this with us, but I imagine they're failing in other places too. So with that, the decision was made to go to a different type of diffuser.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. There's been a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
2.2, approval of amendment to ordinance number 203. Mr. General Manager.
Yeah, back in October of last year, the board voted to become a member of the Chamber of Commerce. The existing ordinance 203, section 2.1 includes a list of organizations for which we are official members, so we need to amend the ordinance to include them on the list. Also at that meeting, there was a motion that the attendance at events of the chamber are not necessarily subjected to per diems and would have to be discussed separately. So this is just an item to add the San Marcos Chamber of Commerce to the list in section 2.1.
But, Chris, do we have a list that's a non-compensatable list?
I don't believe we do. The list
Everything else on that list is compensatable.
The list on 2.1, section 2.1 is really for those agencies we want to become members of, not necessarily directly related to per diems, but it's been used that way in the past.
Director Ellicott?
Yeah, related to that, then I'm wondering why do we still have the North EDC on there if we decided not to do that at the last board meeting, not to be a member?
Was that the action that was taken last?
I believe so.
I believe what we said was we'd have to be a member for 4,000, and we didn't choose to be a member. I think you're right, but we would pay for a per diem to go, is that, or pay, not a per diem, but pay to go to this coming summit. Is that correct?
Yeah, we would buy individual tickets rather
Look in the
than a
minutes.
member.
But we weren't sponsoring a table. I think that was the item that was in front of the board, was sponsoring a table.
Right, that's all we didn't do. We didn't sponsor a table.
So Director Elthorpe, we can go back and look at the action that was taken at that one, and if we need to do a further amendment to ordinance 203, we can do that
Yeah, I
as well.
believe we said we chose not to be members, that we would just continue to buy tickets for each individual, each event individually.
Yeah, if we want to go.
That was my understanding as well, but we didn't address per diem one way or the other
On the,
for San Diego North.
for San Diego North, so, yeah, if
Yeah,
that's,
for clarity, I'm just wondering if it might be better to list those members and then a separate list of what we allow for per diem. I don't know, maybe it'd be less confusing or
Yeah.
maybe
I
more.
think all of them are per diem except for the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah. And I
There's
remember,
only one. It does have an asterisk next to it.
But the statement up here says the district shall hold membership in the following organizations, and we specifically decided not to do the North EDC in the
yeah,
list.
so that was an oversight on my part then. We can come back. I would suggest that we still take the action on this because this is adding the one, and we can bring it back at a future date to make the correction for the San Diego North, and we can consider the per diem issue as well.
I'll move for approval to add the San Marcos Chamber to the list,
I'll
as
second.
well as the caveat at the bottom.
All in favor?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is a roll call vote because we have a new ordinance number
Oh,
for this item.
new roll call vote. Roll call, please.
Okay, so this will be ordinance 210. Director Elithar,
Yes.
Director Evans,
Yes.
Director Hernandez,
Yes.
Director Sinella.
Yes.
Director Martin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item 2.3.
So the Vista Irrigation District is requesting that Vallecitos endorse their nomination of Paul Dory, one of their board members for the Aqua JPIA Executive Committee. In order to be eligible for consideration, they need to have 3 agencies endorsed. So this is just a resolution concurring in the nomination for Paul Dory.
I move that we concur with the nomination.
Second.
Roll call vote? Please.
This will be resolution 1547. Director Elithar,
Yes.
Director Evans.
Yes.
Director Hernandez.
Yes.
Director Sinella.
Yes.
Director Martin.
Yes. Item 2.4, Boys and Girls Club.
The Boys and Girls Club 40th annual auction is on April 27th of this year. The board has previously approved district sponsorship by sponsoring a table, buying a table, which would give us 10 seats. Or you can buy individual tickets at, I think, $150 per seat. So the item in front of the board tonight is just to see, do we want to be sponsoring the Boys and Girls Club annual auction? And if so, by buying a table or just buying individual seats for interested directors?
I'm going to mention, to start with, I think that buying a table is more than, I think we should buy the table. And the reason for that is, by showing that we're buying a table, we're showing sponsorship of the Boys and Girls Club. We're showing the sponsorship of our youth in this community. We did the same thing for the Chamber of Commerce, so I think we should at least do that for the Boys and Girls Club, is sponsor a table. Board members can show up, or if we have any staff that wants to attend, or they can give out the tickets, but I think the $1,000 or $1,500?
$1,500 to sponsor a table.
Yeah, I think that just puts our name up there, shows we're part of the community, it's part of our public outreach program. And I honestly believe we do so little for public outreach as it is, that adding the chamber was something we added, and I think we should add this as a yearly concept for the Boys and Girls Club. That's my opinion. Director Sinella.
Yeah, I concur 100%. It means a lot, both to me, but I think also to the community when they see Vallecitos in a position of leadership, when our support of our youth and these types of programs in our community are being showcased at these events, and you see other organizations like SDG&E and other water agencies that are supporting and taking leadership roles, doing the same thing. I think it's important for us to be part of that.
Is that a motion?
Well, just give other people some chance.
Anyone else?
I will make a comment. Although I think, as I've said, every time we've had this in front of us, I do think the Boys and Girls Club is a very worthy industry, an organization. However, I don't feel that the ratepayers are going to receive any direct benefit from our being there. I think if we want to directly benefit our neighborhood, we should either promote much more with like the splash bus, and on this one I also believe last year we may have sponsored the table, but the public outreach portion of us also supplied a I think they had a rain barrel and stuff set up. I would rather we took the $1,500, if that's what we need to spend. I'd rather we promoted something in the auction and the barrels, and something that directly said, this is something you can do and it relates with water and learning about water. Otherwise, I feel that we should have an obligation to then support the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts and any of the other organizations, because I see this, I do agree, it's important we're out with our community, but it's not the way I see that I feel the ratepayers should pay for it. So I won't be able to support that.
And, okay, and I think that was a very good point, because I thought that if we had a rain barrel that we could put in as an auction item, that would be another thing we could do that would help them raise money. So I agree with that. It happens to be the largest nonprofit in San Marcos. Recognition with them is a good thing for our image. There'll be 300 to 400 people at the auction. and they'll all understand that Vallecitos has helped support the kids, and that's what's important. And that's the outreach. I can look at other things that we do and we spend money on that the people at San Marcos never see any benefit to. Individual board members may, but the people at large don't. So with that, I make a motion that we approve the purchase of a table for the Boys and Girls Club auction. And if any staff wants to go, they're certainly more than welcome to come and sit with the board members.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call vote, please.
This doesn't
All in
require
favor?
a roll call vote.
Huh?
This one doesn't
Oh.
require a roll call vote.
Okay, got a first, got a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against?
No.
Passes 4-1. All right. General Manager's report.
I have nothing to report today.
All right. District Legal Counsel report.
Just two items. I don't know if you heard, but Maureen Stapleton announced her retirement today from the Water Authority.
Oh.
To her board, so it's official. And President Martin asked me about ACA 3,
Right.
which I knew nothing about until you asked me, I'll confess. But what that is an Assembly constitutional amendment that's been proposed to Article 10, proposing to add Section 8, which would set aside 2% of the general fund every year to be for funding of any and all water improvement projects, water infrastructure, environmental quality improvements, groundwater cleanup and recharge, and energy drinking water programs. The 2% of the general budget would be about $4 billion annually. So that has been introduced. It was introduced on January 16th, and that is all I know about it. It will be presented to the people as part of a proposed constitutional amendment put out to vote.
Well, and I think as an ACA, it's a thing that gets away from this water tax. It's money that's already in the general fund. It can be paid out. It's a good answer, I believe, to the crisis that, again, Sacramento is making up there without us having to add silly water taxes to our stuff. So if we can look at ACA 3, and if we agree with it, please send your assemblywoman or the mayor or anybody a bunch of information asking them to support it. Director Sinella.
President Martin, thank you for bringing, or at least asking for more information about the ACA. I wasn't familiar with it either, but definitely have piqued my interest now, and perhaps we could have a little bit more detail around that and maybe consider taking some sort of action of support as a board once we learn a little bit more about it. But I'm definitely interested in learning more about it.
Yeah, I can provide you, I'll provide it to GM Pruitt, the legislative slip, and you can read the language, it's very short, but I'll see what additional information we have from our legislative people and get that to you as well.
Yeah, I'd like to see more on it. Maybe the Water Authority would like to see more on it as well, and get them to get behind it, so it's just a thought. I haven't read the entire thing, I'm very small. Thank you. Was there a second thing you said as well?
I got two.
That works too. That works too. San Diego County Water Authority.
Nothing to report since Jim gave the big news, and the next meeting's on the 28th.
Encinitas Wastewater Authority.
Our capital committee met this morning. We reviewed the project status of the upgrade, and going to spend $11 million over the next 4 years. So it'll be quite a project.
Policy and Finance Committee. I attended my first Finance Committee meeting. Very interesting. I knew some of the players, but certainly not all the players. There's one player there that asks more questions than I do, which is hard to believe. I don't ask many questions. I'm very quiet until I learn, get the lay of the land. But interesting, I'm looking forward to it. Standing Committee. Do we have a Standing Committee? We do have a Finance.
Yeah, but we're meeting on the 25th.
Okay. All right, then we move to Directors, if no one has anything. Directors' reports on attending things that you may have attended. I have one, obviously, DSAL I attended on the 7th and 8th. As a matter of fact, I left here the night of our board meeting, and it was in Palm Springs, DSAL. It was very interesting. I brought my pad with me, and of course I didn't bring my glasses to read it, so I only read the bold handwriting. The first day I wasn't there, I was here at the board meeting, but they toured a few of the facilities out there. So I didn't do that part. But the second day, I started bright and early, and we had many speakers, including the Resource Control Board member, Sean McGuire, who was very interesting, very new, very much wanted to learn and get involved in it. Implementing different technologies of the desalinization was another one. Future trends, water desalinization. So there were a lot. But what I did glean, which I found most interesting, and I'm going to ask our attorney and our general manager, already mentioned to him, to look into, was I did learn, sitting at a table with some other people, was very interesting enough that last year, Poseidon, and/or its management company, didn't fulfill their obligations to the County Water Authority, and either were sued or coerced into paying the County Water Authority $7 to $9 million, because they weren't delivering, catch this folks, they weren't delivering desal water to the County Water Authority. And County Water Authority gladly took the money. The reason why I smile about that is you seem to be in the same situation. So we'll talk about that later, but it's just very interesting that they received monies for desal not being delivered to them. So
if I could point out on that, it is in the contract that
that's a
the
closed
water.
session item.
Huh?
It's a closed session item.
Not what I'm going to say. I'm
Okay.
saying that the Water Authority, when it established the contract, private-public, with the desal station, that they have in there that Poseidon was responsible for the water they didn't produce. So when you say coerced or bullied or whatever the word was that you used, I'm sorry, don't remember it.
I haven't said it yet.
You implied something, I'm sorry to say, I don't know the exact words, I'm just saying it was in the contract, and unfortunately, I'm not sure that when we wrote our contract, we were as clever.
Well, and I agree with you. And, I never said anything was contractually incorrect. Anyway, that's all I have for, oh, and yesterday's Kawa, I'll let someone else talk about it. Michael?
Thank you.
Director
Thank you,
Sinella.
President Martin. Yeah, I attended the Council of Water Utility monthly meeting, and they had a presentation by, I can't remember if it was an administrator or teacher at an elementary school in Chula Vista, talking about some different opportunities that they bring to the kids there, and they had like an innovation one and an energy one, and they just recently rolled out a program called the Hydro Station, which is really designed, they've partnered with a couple of the local water agencies. Sweetwater was one of them down there to help sponsor it, and it really is designed to introduce children at a younger age to jobs in water, and it seemed like they were having a lot of success. And one of the things, I think, if I recall correctly, he pointed out was that they were having a lot of success around getting girls kind of excited about this field as well, because it's historically been kind of more male dominated, which was a success story.
Yeah, I attended that Council of Water Utilities meeting yesterday as well. Found the presentation very interesting, and hopefully we can encourage other school districts to participate or expand that program. Very worthwhile.
Other business? Meeting's coming up, none. Director's comments, future agenda items? With that, we're adjourning, but we're moving into closed session.
Yes, we're